AITA for saying okay and packing her bags when she said she was leaving? My name is Tristan, 31 years old. Her name is Kelsey, 28. Together for 3.5 years, living together for 2 in our small apartment in Denver. I thought we were solid, not in the romantic movie way, but in the boring and adult way that real life usually is. Splitting the cost of groceries from Trader Joe's, inside jokes about the shows we binged on Netflix, arguments over who left the laundry in the machine that never seemed like the end of the world. And then that text arrived. At 2:14 p.m. on an ordinary Tuesday, I am leaving you. Do not ask me why. No emoji, no dramatic ellipses, just a sentence dropped into our message thread like a dirty plate left in the sink. I stared at the screen, waiting for the follow-up. It did not come. Usually, this is the moment the person falls apart. Calls 10 times, sends message after message, has a breakdown. I felt that instinct for half a second, and then something simply switched off. I typed a single word. Okay. No sarcasm, no performative bravery. It was just the truth. If someone announces they are leaving and does not even give you the respect of an explanation, what exactly are you fighting to save? She read it right away. I know because the typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again, but nothing came through. I went back to my work spreadsheet as if my life had not just been detonated by a text message. Around 4 p.m., she posted a story on Instagram. Colorful margaritas, a loud downtown bar. The caption said everything without needing to say anything. She was not heartbroken. She was performing. That was when I made a decision. I logged off work early, opened the hall closet, then the bedroom, then the bathroom, and started packing, not out of anger, but in silence. I folded her clothes carefully, wrapped her shoes, and organized her makeup in a way that nothing would break. I labeled each suitcase with a black Sharpie, as if I were doing an inventory instead of dismantling a relationship. When the sun went down, every single thing she owned was packed, zipped up, and neatly stacked in front of the door. I did not know it yet, but she was out getting drunk, very drunk, expecting to come back home and find a man still waiting for her. She had no idea what she was about to find. She arrived at 11:47 p.m. I know the exact time because I looked at the microwave clock when the door slammed hard enough to make the frame shake. I was on the couch in the dark, with only the lamp lit near the window, scrolling through my phone thinking about nothing, as if it were just another Tuesday. She laughed loudly when she walked in, the kind of laugh that is clearly for an audience. Wow, she said, kicking off a heel. Are you still awake? I thought I was going to find my phone blown up with your messages. I did not answer. She took 2 more steps and finally saw the bags. 6 large suitcases, 3 trash bags tied with neat knots, 2 labeled boxes, bathroom, and fragile shoes. The fabric tote bag with the broken zipper was sitting right on top, like a punctuation mark. She blinked once, twice. What is this? She asked, squinting, as if the alcohol had not quite reached her brain yet. Your things, I said, calm, neutral. Packed. She laughed again, but this time it came out wrong. Short, sharp. Okay, very funny. You're being dramatic. I did not move. Her eyes went down to the labels. The handwriting was mine, careful, deliberate. Why are my bags by the door? She snapped. You said you were leaving, I answered. So I did not ask why. I just helped. That was when the color drained from her face. No, she said slowly. This is not the Tristan I know. I did not mean right now. I meant I do not know. I was upset. You sent me a text saying you were going to leave me, I said, and asked me not to ask why. She looked at me as if I had broken some unwritten rule. You were supposed to fight, she said. You were supposed to call me, beg, ask what you did wrong. I shrugged. You asked me not to ask. Her mouth opened, closed, and then her eyes filled with tears. Not with sadness, but with panic. This is absurd, she said. I was drunk when I sent that. And I was sober when I answered. I replied. Her voice cracked, suddenly very loud. So this is it. 3.5 years and you just say, okay? I really looked at her. Smudged makeup, phone clutched in her hand, her confidence completely evaporated. You already left, I said. You just did not expect me to accept it. That was when she started crying for real. Not that pretty movie cry, but the kind that shakes your shoulders when control finally slips through your fingers. She slid down to the floor right there in the entryway, her back against the wall, her knees pulled to her chest, as if the suitcases were going to attack her if she stopped looking at them. This is not fair, she kept repeating. This is so unfair. I stayed on the couch. I did not move to comfort her. I did not argue. I had already done enough emotional labor in this relationship to recognize when silence was the only honest answer left. After a minute, she looked up, mascara running, her eyes red and unfocused. Say something. You already asked me not to say anything, I said. That made her cry harder. Then she tried anger. It was always her pattern. You are doing this on purpose. You want to hurt me. No, I answered. I am doing exactly what you told me to do. She stood up with difficulty and grabbed one of the labels, reading it out loud. Winter coats. She turned to me in disbelief. You even folded them. What kind of person packs things like this? The kind who paid attention when you said you were done. She swayed a little, balancing herself against the wall. I did not mean it that way. I just needed space. You did not ask for space, I said. You said you were leaving. That is not the same thing. She kept staring at me, searching my face for guilt, for regret, for something she could grab and pull back under her control. She found nothing. Where am I going to go? She asked quietly. I shrugged. You seemed pretty confident when you left. That hit. I saw the moment it landed. She wiped her face with the back of her hand and tried a softer tone. Tristan, stop. I was emotional. You know how I get. I know, I said. That is why I took you seriously. Her phone vibrated. A notification from a friend, probably checking in after the dramatic exit she had staged earlier. She looked at her phone, then at the bags. Reality was finally setting in. She had not expected consequences. She had expected leverage. And, for the first time since I had known her, she had none. She stood up too fast and almost tripped over one of the suitcases. Get these things out of the way, she snapped. I am not leaving tonight. I did not move. You already left. She let out a dry laugh, wiping her face aggressively. Damn, you rehearsed that line, didn't you? No, I said. I just stopped improvising. That made her genuinely angry. She started pacing back and forth, barefoot. Her heels were abandoned near the door. Like everything else, she dropped without thinking. You are acting like I cheated on you or something. I went out. I had a few drinks. This is not about you going out, I said. You ended things when you left and told me not to ask why. She laughed bitterly. So now I am the villain. I am no longer handing out roles, I said. I am just ending the scene. She stopped pacing and stared at me, as if memorizing my face for later, to miss it or to resent it. Probably both. She said slowly, all the guys before you begged. All of them begged. That must have been exhausting, I answered. Her eyes narrowed. You think you are better than them? No, I said. I am just done with the audition. Then came the guilt. Her specialty. I gave you everything, she said, her voice trembling just enough to sound sincere. I moved to this city. I chose you, and this is how you repay me. I almost laughed. You did not choose me tonight, I said quietly. You chose to disappear and make me wait. Her mouth opened to argue, then closed. Because she knew it was true. She slid back down to the floor, slower this time. Less dramatic, more real. I did not think you would really let me go, she whispered. I nodded. That was the mistake. She looked at the bags one more time, then at me. And for the first time all night, there was no more attitude, only fear. What if I cannot undo this? She asked. I did not answer, because there are some questions that only exist after it is already too late. She ended up sleeping on the couch. Not because I offered, but because she passed out there around 2 a.m., her phone still in her hand, an arm resting on the suitcase labeled coats, as if it were a life preserver. I went to the bedroom, closed the door, and slept better than I had in months. In the morning, I woke up to the sound of drawers slamming. She was sober, which somehow made everything worse. Did you really pack everything? She said when I came out of the bedroom. Not with anger, but with accusation, as if I had violated some unspoken agreement that breakups have to be messy. You said you were leaving, I answered. I assumed it was serious. She turned to me. You assumed wrong. She did not say it calmly. I assumed you meant what you said, I replied. She crossed her arms. I was upset. People say things when they are upset. And sometimes, I said, people are taken seriously. That set her off. She called me cold, petty, said I was taking advantage of the situation, that I had been waiting for an excuse to get rid of her. She accused me of never having loved her as much as she loved me. That last one almost got to me. Almost. Loving someone does not mean chasing them when they threaten to leave, I said. It means having enough respect for yourself not to beg. She laughed bitterly. So that is it. You just flipped a switch and stopped caring. I shook my head. No, I just stopped negotiating. She looked at me as if I had spoken in another language. What if I want to stay? She asked. You already chose not to stay, I answered. She opened her mouth to argue. Stopped. Her eyes darted to the bags, to the door, to everything in the apartment that no longer seemed to belong to her. Where am I supposed to take all this? She asked. I grabbed my car keys. I called you an Uber. That was when she understood this was not a battle of wills. It was logistics, and she was officially on the outside. The Uber arrived 10 minutes later, an SUV for the luggage. She stared out the window as it pulled up in front of the building, her arms wrapped around herself, as if protecting herself from a cold that did not exist. When her phone vibrated with the notification, she did not move. I am not getting in that car, she said. All right, I answered. The bags are. She snapped her head toward me. You cannot just decide it is over like a canceled subscription. I did not decide anything, I said. You decided. I just accepted it. She tried guilt one more time. Said I was insensitive, that no one lets a relationship end like this unless they never cared, that I must have been emotionally checked out for months. I let her talk, because the truth was simpler and she did not want to hear it. I cared enough not to chase someone who used the threat of leaving as a weapon. She finally picked up her purse, grabbed one of the suitcases, and dragged it toward the door, fighting its weight as if anger would make it lighter. At the door, she stopped, her hand on the doorknob, waiting. Say something, she said quietly. Please. I thought about all the times I swallowed my feelings so she would not explode. About all the times I apologized just to keep the peace. About all the times she threatened to leave when she wanted to regain control. I hope you figure out why you said what you said, I told her. But I am not going to wait around while you do. Her face crumbled. She opened the door, dragged the suitcase out, then looked back one last time. You were supposed to fight for me, she whispered. I met her eyes. I was supposed to respect myself. She left. The door closed behind her, the car drove off, and for the first time since that text message, the apartment was completely silent. I thought that would be the end, right? The next day at noon, my phone started vibrating nonstop. Missed calls, texts from numbers I barely recognized, mutual friends who had not shown signs of life in months suddenly very invested in my emotional state. Dude, Kelsey is a mess. She said you threw her out while she was drunk. That is messed up. I did not answer. At 2 p.m., she texted me herself. I cannot believe you embarrassed me like this. Embarrassed. Not hurt. Not devastated. Embarrassed. I stared at the message longer than I should have. The audacity was almost impressive. You did not have to make everything so final, she sent right after. We could have talked. That one genuinely annoyed me. I replied once. Just once. You told me you were leaving and asked me not to ask why. I respected that. The 3 little dots appeared immediately. You were supposed to know I did not mean it. There it was. The unwritten rule I had finally broken. I was supposed to read between the lines, translate threats into requests, and decipher drama as if it were a code of affection. I did not reply. An hour later, she sent a selfie, puffy eyes, tear tracks on her face. The caption, "This is what you did." I blocked her number. That afternoon, I found one of her earrings under the couch. A few months ago, I would have driven to her place just to return it, used it as an excuse to see her, to reopen the door. Instead, I put the earring in a small envelope, wrote her name on it, and left it in the building's outgoing mail slot. Clean, final, boring. And somehow that felt like the most powerful thing I had done in years. Because when someone expects you to beg, your silence becomes deafening. And she was finally starting to hear it. 2 days later, she showed up again. I was not home, but the building's front desk manager texted me. Your ex, Kelsey, is in the lobby. Says it is urgent. I sighed and replied that I was unavailable. Apparently, that did not stop her. When I got home later, there was a note taped to my door. Crooked handwriting. A lipstick smudge on the corner. You do not have the right to erase me like this. That sentence stuck with me. Not because it hurt, but because it summed her up perfectly. For her, love meant permanence on her terms. She could leave, threaten, disappear, but I was not allowed to accept it. That night, she texted from a new number. Blocking me does not make you right. I did not reply. Then, the messages got aggressive. She said I was emotionally abusive, that I had trapped her, that any decent man would have waited for her to sober up. Said she was going to tell people I kicked her out with nowhere to go. That almost made me reply. Almost. But here's the truth. I did not kick her out. I believed her. She left first. I simply refused to pretend she had not. The next morning, I got a call from her mother. We had always been cordial, never really close. I do not really know what happened, her mom said carefully. But Kelsey is a wreck. I am sure she is, I answered. She said you caught her by surprise. I took a deep breath. She told me she was leaving and asked me not to ask why. I respected that. There was a long pause on the other end. Oh, that single weighed more than all the messages combined. That afternoon I finally felt it. Not guilt, not anger, but clarity. The kind that does not buzz or sting, that simply settles. She did not want to break up. She wanted a reaction. And when all she got was acceptance, the entire power dynamic collapsed. I was not cruel. I was not dramatic. I simply did not chase her, and for her, that was unforgivable. The version of the story she told our friends kept evolving. First, I was emotionally distant. Then I was cold and manipulative. By the end of the week, I had apparently planned to break up with her for months and used her text as an excuse. Funny how I was caught by surprise until I was not. What finally broke the silence was not her, but me realizing how calm my days had become. No more conversations walking on eggshells, no emotional roulette, no threat of abandonment hanging over my head like leverage. One night, driving home from work, I noticed something small but definitive. I had not looked at my phone once on the drive. No anxiety, no bracing myself for a storm. That was when she called from yet another unknown number. This time I answered. Why are you doing this? She asked immediately. No hello. I am not doing anything, I said. I stopped doing. She let out a weak little laugh. You know what I mean. You are acting like I never mattered. You mattered enough for me to believe you, I said. She went silent. So you are really not coming back, she said, a statement, not a question. I leaned against the kitchen counter, looked around the apartment, my apartment now, and felt something settle for good. No, I said. I am not. Her voice cracked. I did not think one text message would end everything. It did not, I answered. It only revealed it. This time she did not yell. She did not accuse. She just breathed unevenly into the phone. I thought you were going to fight harder, she whispered. I did fight, I said calmly. Just not for this. We hung up without saying goodbye. And for the first time, I knew she had finally understood. Not that she had lost me, but that she had lost control. 6 weeks passed. That is how long it took for the dust to really settle, not publicly, but inside me. The messages stopped after that last call. Our mutual friends went silent, too. People started losing interest when they realized there was not going to be any new drama to feed on. A breakup where nobody explodes, cheats, or begs is not very interesting. I ran into her once, completely by chance, in the frozen food aisle at the local King Soopers. She looked smaller, not physically, but less certain. Like someone who had finally realized she was not the main character in every room. She did not say hi, just stared at me for a second and looked away. It was enough. I got home afterward and noticed something strange. I did not feel the urge to text anyone about it. No need to process, explain, or justify. The moment passed and stayed in the past. That was when I understood the true ending. She did not break up with me by leaving. She just revealed how much she used the threat of leaving to maintain control. And when I did not chase her, when I simply accepted it, the whole illusion fell apart. She expected begging, expected chaos, expected me to convince her that she was irreplaceable. What she found were organized boxes and a closed door. And maybe packing her bags that night seemed cold to some people. But here's the truth. Sometimes, the healthiest response to disrespect is not confrontation, it is acceptance. She said she was leaving. I believed her, and that belief changed everything. Comment. I wanted to share a few thoughts after that story. True strength is not about fighting louder, but about knowing when your peace is no longer negotiable. Setting a boundary is not an act of punishment against someone else. It is an act of kindness and respect toward yourself. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is to calmly accept what someone says, even when it hurts. You are not responsible for managing another person's emotions or reactions. Choosing your own well-being over chaos is never a selfish decision. Healing often begins in the quiet moments after you stop participating in the noise. I hope you remember that you deserve relationships where respect is the foundation, not the goal. Take care of yourself out there. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.